channel.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. So starting now, we are in the recording mode. Okay, so now we're delighted to begin today's program. So we have a slight change to the program today. If you received the program brochure through emails, you would see that Provost Gannon was originally planning to give the opening remarks. But unfortunately, she suffered an injury yesterday, and that affected her mobility to be here. Fortunately, that Dean Dansmars has graciously offered to get us started with the opening remarks. And also, I'd like to mention that this year we have an exciting addition to our program, because this year we're going to honor 3 outstanding alumna from our college with a CSH Alumna Award. And this award will be presented by Dean Dansmars as well, following her opening remarks. So without further ado, I would just like to welcome Dean Dansmars to this podium and get us started.
Okay. Okay. Good evening. I'm so excited to be here. And once again, I want to give regards from Soma, our provost. She was so disappointed she could not be here today. I could feel it through her text. But I told her it's best for her to take care of herself. And she gave her well wishes because she loves being here for this event. So I want to thank her for her continued support. And once again, give her well wishes. But good evening to everyone. It is truly a pleasure to welcome you to the 2026 William J. Degutis Women in Science and Health Lecture Series. This event reflects so many of the values that define our College of Science and Health here at DePaul University. And when we think about, oh, you got that. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I was watching the abundance of people come into our waiting room. But it does reflect so many values of our college. When we think about discovery, compassion, mentorship, advocacy, service, and the power of education that truly transforms lives. Before recognizing tonight's award recipients, I would like to thank Dr. Jingjing Kip, Ty, the entire Degutis Lecture Committee, the Alumni Award Selection Committee, Blair, our advancement team, and everyone who really helped make tonight possible. So much work goes into this, you guys, and I hope you feel it reflected into everything that you're about to experience today, especially with our wonderful speaker. Events like this, they just don't happen without tremendous care, collaboration, and commitment from many individuals working behind the scenes. And so once again, thank you all so much. And if you could just give everyone an applause because we're here at the end of the year. But still showing up. I also want to acknowledge our faculty, staff, and students who are here this evening. The work happening across our college each day in the classrooms, in the labs, clinics, research spaces, and communities, they do truly matter, you all. And tonight is a reminder of the impact that science, health, and human connection can have on the world around us and extraordinary community that we continue to build together. On behalf of the College of Science and Health, I am honored to recognize our Alumni Award recipients today. That is primarily the reason why I'm up here. And so these awards celebrate individuals who embody the mission and values of the college through leadership, innovation, service, mentorship, and professional excellence. Although they could not join us in person this evening, each recipient has shared a pre-recorded set of remarks that we are excited to share with you tonight. And so I want to start with our very first award recipient, which is the Distinguished College of Science and Health Alumni Achievement Award, which is being given to Dr. Linda C. Degutis. And this is the highest honor that the college can bestow. It recognizes alumni who have enhanced the reputation of DePaul University through exemplary character, integrity, leadership, and achievement. Linda, she has had an extraordinary career and continues to be a deeply engaged and generous member of our DePaul community. She regularly mentors students and currently serves as the chair of our advisory council here for the college and as a member of our college strategic planning committee as well. In 2021, she established the William J. Degutis Women in Science and Health Lecture Series, which is why we're all here today, which continues to inspire scholarship, dialogue, and community throughout the college. Linda is internationally recognized for her leadership in public health and for her policy and advocacy work focused on violence and injury prevention. She currently serves as a lecturer at the Yale School of Public Health. Linda's career reflects what it means to lead with both excellence and purpose, and we are incredibly proud to recognize her this evening. And so it is my honor to present this Distinguished College of Science and Health Alumni Achievement Award to Linda. And so hopefully when I click this clicker here, we'll hear her video. All right.
Good afternoon. Thanks to the College of Science and Health at DePaul for honoring me with this award. It is both humbling and an honor to receive recognition for work that I have done in conjunction with so many other people who are working to make a difference in their communities. I wish that I could be there with you to celebrate, but know that I'm with you in spirit, and I'm very thankful for being the recipient of this award.
So next, the Outstanding Service to the College of Science and Health Award. It recognizes alumni and friends of the college who have demonstrated exceptional dedication to our community through volunteerism, mentorship, philanthropy, and service. And so I present the award this evening to Stephen Johnson, who has been an extraordinary advocate and supporter of the college for many years through mentorship, supportive internship opportunities for our students, and 8 years of service on our Dean Advisory Council. He has consistently invested in the success of our students and future scientists. In 2015, he and his wife Carol established the Stephen F. and Carol W. Johnson Endowment to provide scholarship assistance and research funding for STEM students. Professionally, Steve's career has included groundbreaking work in technology, entrepreneurship, and the biopharmaceutical industry. Steve's generosity, partnership, and belief in our students have had a meaningful and lasting impact on the college community. So it is with great pleasure to present the Outstanding Service to the College of Science and Health Award to Stephen Johnson. Not hearing that online.
The audio of the video did not come through. Okay. That's a great idea. Let's just Thank you very much for this honor. DePaul and the College of Science and Health hold a special place in my heart, one I've been fortunate to pass on to succeeding generations of students. I came to DePaul as a first-generation college student with no financial safety net. Student employment in the physics department allowed me to stay in school. Through the university's internship program, I had the extraordinary opportunity to spend 3 summers at Argonne National Laboratory. I enthusiastically recommend internships to students I meet and promote industry internships to College of Science and Health faculty for their students as well. The most lasting gifts DePaul gave me were the enduring benefits of hard work learned from Dr. Mary Boas and a mentor, Dr. Tony Behoff, the 2024 recipient of this recognition. Dr. Behoff encouraged me at every turn in my academics and in my side projects, both serious and I'll admit a few mischievous ones as well. To share this award with that legacy means more than I can readily express. Thank you.
So finally, the Early Career College of Science and Health Alumni Achievement Award recognizes alumni who have completed their degree within the past 10 years and have already demonstrated remarkable promise, achievement, leadership, and commitment to service. Dr. Rebecca Urson has distinguished herself as both an exceptional scientist and an advocate for diversity and inclusion in STEM. Since graduating from DePaul, Becca has received multiple awards recognizing both her scientific contributions and leadership within the broader scientific community. She founded and led several diversity and inclusion initiatives at Johns Hopkins and co-directed the Reagan Women in STEM Empowerment Group. Today, she serves as a scientist at AstraZeneca, leading projects focused on developing innovative therapeutics for autoimmune diseases. Becca represents the next generation of scientific leadership, brilliant, collaborative, compassionate, and deeply committed to advancing both science and equity. It is my honor to present the Early Career College of Science and Health Alumni Achievement Award to Rebecca.
Thank you to Dr. Dance Barnes and the entire College of Science and Health for this recognition. DePaul shaped not only what I wanted to do, but also the kind of person that I wanted to be and the kind of people that I wanted to advocate for. It was there in my dorm at University Hall, in my lab and classrooms at McGowan South, and on my own stomping grounds at Wishfield that I learned how to follow what excites me and to do what makes me feel alive and purposeful. And I made countless mistakes, like failing summer organic chemistry, and I didn't have a perfect GPA, but I was curious and passionate and kind. And those moments of imperfection helped me learn grace and helped me learn to grow and lead with conviction, compassion, and purpose. And I'm grateful that DePaul helped me give the foundation to do that. And I also want to give a special thank you and shout out to my former mentor and PI, Dr. Kip, who introduced me to research and perhaps without even realizing it, opened so many doors for me. Her guidance and genuine interest in me helped shape the entire trajectory of my career as a scientist and as a woman in science. And I am deeply grateful for the role that she played in helping me find this path. Thank you all so much again.
All the awardees are wonderful, but having Becca presented last, it does truly speak to the impact. So to all of tonight's honorees, congratulations and thank you for all the work that you continue to do for the college and beyond. Their accomplishments reflect the very best of the College of Science and Health and DePaul University. They remind us that successes is not simply measured by professional achievement, but also by how we mentor, serve, uplift others, and contribute to the greater good. And once again, to our students that are in the room, I hope tonight serves as a reminder that your journey, your passions, and your work matter deeply. The future of science and health depends on thoughtful, compassionate leaders just like all of you. And so I want to thank you again for joining us this evening, and congratulations once more to our outstanding award recipients. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Cook.
Thank you, Dean Dance-Barnes, for your wonderful opening remarks and for the wonderful presentation for the awards. And congratulations again to all our alumni awardees. And your achievements are truly inspirational to our current students and to our entire DePaul community here. So next, we will move on to today's keynote address. As Dr. Dance-Barnes mentioned earlier, that today's speakers are Dr. Amanda Kasongo-Robinson, and she's an alumna of our college as well. And Dr. Kasongo-Robinson is the attending physician and the director of emergency room at Phoebe Worth Hospital in Sylvester, Georgia, which is a rural area. And she, in addition to being a physician, she's also a nationally published writer, which is a unique combination of expertise. So Dr. Kasongo-Robinson graduated from DePaul with a degree in American Studies in 1993, and then she received a master's degree in journalism from Columbia University. While maintaining her journalist roots, Dr. Kasongo-Robinson went on to earn her medical degree from a Rush Medical College and completed her residency in emergency medicine at New York University in 2006. So as a journalist, Dr. Kasongo-Robinson has published articles for numerous news outlets, and she also co-founded Black Star News, which is a weekly newspaper. She did that in New York City. And as in the medical field, Dr. Kasongo-Robinson has been named as a top doctor, top emergency medicine specialist, and top women in medicine through numerous years. And she also serves as a fellow of the Academy of Emergency Physicians. She currently, Dr. Kasongo-Robinson serves as a member of our college's Dean's Advisory Council at DePaul. So it's a really a great honor to have her with us today. And let's see if I can move to the next slide. So the talk of her presentation today is my journey to finding my calling in rural medicine. Without further ado, please help me to welcome Dr. Kasongo-Robinson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for being here. I am so honored. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here, but particularly I want to thank Dr. Dean Dance-Barnes, Dr. Kip, Blair, James Ferguson, Ty, all the people, everybody that's been involved in getting me here, Professors Michael Roberts, Craig Klugman, and to Dr. Linda Degutis and the Degutis family for establishing this wonderful lecture series. I feel very humbled to be asked to speak here today. I also just have to be very frank and honest that I want to thank my children and my husband, who they are not here, but they are my heartbeat. My husband, who's class of 92, he's basically the chief of staff of my life. I mean, he basically makes it so that I can do what I do. I want to thank all of my DePaul family, the people that I met here helped to gird me for so many years. and all of my family and friends, and the Kasongo family, my parents, my sister, all the people who have made this place and have made this possible for me. And to all of my and to all of my professors, all of my teachers, to Mrs. Brandon, to Mr. Barber, to Mrs. Carroll. These are all the people in high school that told me, that saw me, and who saw something in me and saw the potential that I had when, frankly, they didn't have to. To Professors Facile Demisi and Dr. Lily Edwards and Janie Isaacson and Professors Murphy and Hugh Ingrassi and a bunch of professors that I had here, they really helped to mold me and give me the foundation for the things that I would ultimately end up doing. I just want to say thank you to them. Even though they are not here right now, I believe in speaking like power, that there's a power in just speaking people's words and speaking people's names. So thank you. So I just want to kind of start with where I'm from. So I am from what is called the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was at some point called the Belgian Congo. And that's a picture of me in front of my hut house prior to leaving there and moving to, this is Wembonyama. So I was born in Wembonyama, Zaire. And that was essentially, that was me. That was how I grew up. And that was my existence until I moved here. And here are my parents. This is Professor Tukumbi Lumumba Kasongo and Esther Lumumba Kasongo. And this is prior to them moving to the United States. My father was part of the group of students that were sort of selected from African countries to come here and to learn, get their degrees, and to take their degrees and to go back to their countries and to take that knowledge and better the continent. And so from my father, I believe that's where I get my sense of discipline and my sense of social justice. My mother is a certified nurse's assistant, and she's been working in nursing homes all of my life, and she continues to. So from her, I got my sense of compassion and understanding, and actually my desire to take care of people. I would sometimes have to go with her to the nursing home when there was no childcare, and I would marvel at the way she was able to work with people who, she had a very thick accent, and she would be working with people with thick accents, and yet she was able to give this amazing care. And so I wanted to be able to do that, and whatever field that I went into, I wanted to be able to do that. And she taught me that there's a way to do that in verbal ways, in some ways in nonverbal. And she showed me that it can be done in the field of medicine. And so I honor both of them for showing me that. So my last name is Kasongo. I'm Kasongo-Robinson now. When I was here, I was Mana Lumumba Kasongo. Won't get into it too much right now, but Lumumba, if you look it up, there's it's got a storied name. But I was born near the Kasongo River, and that's part of the Eastern Congo. So most people in the parts of Zaire where I'm from, you get your name from where you're from. So my family's from the Kasongo River, so my name is Kasongo, and it's part of the Kasai region. It is the region right now that has been in constant turmoil for the last, I would say, probably 60 years, 70 years, 100 years. It's not usually in the news because I think people have gotten so used to it being so fraught that we sort of forget the fact that there are 600,000 refugees there right now, that there's so many resources there, that there's so much infighting because there's so many resources that everybody has a proxy. So every country is there representing, what they want. And because of that, it makes it a very difficult place to kind of navigate. And I want to honor the fact that I'm from here because several years ago, the United Nations named the Congo as the worst place to be born a woman. And they say that because it's been in such constant turmoil that women are effectively neglected. And when they're not neglected, they are used as tools of war, and they're used as tools of, and rape is used as a tool of war. And so to be born a woman there is to be born with something to be born fraught. So as a woman who's been shown grace and who's been blessed, I like to honor that and to know that part of whatever road that I have chosen and the path that I've chosen, I keep that with me, or I bring that with me in every place that I go, because I know that there's so many that cannot do what I do. And that's been sort of one of the main things that kind of burns me in and spurs me along in all that I do, even when times get really hard. So a little bit about the Congo, just very briefly. King Leopold II created a colony in the Congo River region of the Central Africa during a wave of widespread European colonization in the 1880s. The desire for valuable goods like rubber and ivory, combined with limited laws and no regulation, basically made the Congo a free state. It was called the Congo Free State. And it really led to like abuse of basically all the people of the Congo and countless deaths. And you can read more about King Leopold, but he was one of the people from between 1885 to about 1908. He basically used the Congo as his own personal backyard. It was not anybody's country. It was his personal space. And so anybody who chose to not do what he said, he would use them as an example. And one of the examples is that he would cut your arms off. And so there was a whole generation of people who are amputees because if they refused to mine the gold or mine the mines, this is what would happen to them, and they would be used as examples. So that is the sort of space that I was born into. And that's the space that I keep in mind when I'm doing the work that I do. Just a fun fact. I was born in Wembanyama, Zaire. And never in a million years would I have ever thought that name would ever be seen outside of the Congo. Well, here comes Victor Wembanyama, who is considered probably the face of the NBA at this point, or the future of it. And his father's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He's French. He was born in France, and his mother's French. And his father's from the same region I was from. So I just think it's kind of neat that for years, I've never seen Wembanyama ever on anything other than my own birth certificate, but now I see it everywhere. And it's just kind of a neat thing for me to deal with and to kind of make it okay. Makes it okay and makes me feel like, you know what, we can all be from anywhere. So my humble beginnings, I'll take a piece from the song by Joe, that will sort of end at the beginning. John Fisk School. This is where I went to school. It is right down the road. It's on the south side of Chicago. I went to school there from first grade to fifth grade. There was my first grade teacher, Mrs. Brandon, who I initially talked about and mentioned. She was the most spectacular first grade teacher. And I don't remember why she was so spectacular. I just know that she loved me and she loved all of her students. And she told me that I could do and be anything that I wanted to be. And I remembered that. And I took that everywhere that I went. And that school still exists. And there are teachers there that are still doing that work. And so I want to acknowledge that. And I want to acknowledge that public schools still work. I'm a product of it. And I want to just give it props because I was able to take that I was able to take the what I learned there and build upon it. So after living in Chicago for a little while, my father completed his studies. So it was time to go back to Africa. But of course, we couldn't go back to the Democratic Republic of Congo. We had to go to Liberia. My dad's first job was as the professor of political science at the University of Liberia. And I was there for about 2 years. And, you know, I say it was a wonderful experience, but I know that I was a brat. I mean, I was an American kid, essentially, who had to go back to living with no TV, with all of the amenities that I was so used to. And I remember just being like, what are we doing here? But one major thing happened to me, and I remember it being like very, sort of a very pivotal point in my life. I was really sick and nobody could figure out why. I just, I was sick all the time. I was throwing up all the time. I wasn't gaining weight. I was losing a lot of weight and nobody could figure it out. So my mom took me to what was effectively, I guess it was the emergency room, but what I remembered it to look like, it looked like a refugee camp. That's what it looked like to me. It was hundreds of people sitting on benches. There were no rooms and there was one doctor and he saw everybody. And so I just remember being a 10-year-old kid thinking to myself, I want to be like him because I want to come back and help him. Now, I know that sounds very that's a very childlike way of thinking of things, but it was a way of kind of motivating me and kind of honing in on what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to go back and help that guy because what he did was incredible. He saw a sea of people. He didn't look upset. He didn't look frazzled. He sat down and he worked with everybody. And then he found out, what was wrong with me, which this might gross some of you out, but basically I had been infested by worms. And so the worm had been basically taking all my nutrition, taking all my food and making me feel really sick. But he figured that out. And so I knew that the prism from which I was going to access healthcare was through the emergency room, because that to me was medicine for me. And I remember thinking, well, if he could do that, maybe in some small way, I could do something like that as well. So coming back from Liberia, we had to leave Liberia in really, really, really sort of under harsh terms. Those are also things you can look up. Back in 1985, there was a coup. There was a brutal dictator named Samuel Kato, and we basically couldn't live there anymore. And so we had to move back to the United States. And I lived in Framingham, Massachusetts, and I got my high school degree there. And I was there for 4 years. But the whole time I'm thinking, I'm going back to Chicago. I'm going back to Chicago. I'm going to find a way. And when I got into DePaul, I was so excited and I was so happy. And when I got back here, I remember thinking to myself that I loved this place, but I loved it because it was an institution that was an amazing institution, but it was also within a city, but it had its own community. Now, I started off what was called, I think it was called Clifton, now it's called Monroe. I've lived in University, then I was an RA at Corcoran, I ended up in McCabe, and that's where you see this picture. That's outside McCabe on graduation day with my family. And the lessons that I learned here, all the lessons that I've learned here have really taken me quite far. I mean, I was in America, I was a biology major, decided I loved biology. It was great, it was wonderful. But I really wanted to make sure that I got a wider education. I felt that that I wanted I wanted liberal arts. I wanted to learn how to write. I wanted to learn how to read. And science is amazing, but I wanted to learn it in the sense of, I wanted to be able to tell a story. So my second year, I decided that I was going to switch from biology and become an American Studies major. And what was amazing about it was the counselor, the advisors that I had, which included Dr. Lily Edwards and a bunch of people at the history department, they told me, you can do that, but you have to continue along the path of science because you have completed all of these prerequisites and you don't know where your life is gonna go. So I said, but how am I gonna do that? I mean, how am I going to be an American Studies major and continue taking all these science classes? And I said, that's what you're gonna do. And you can do hard things. And so I said, okay. And so that's exactly what I did. I ended up with an American Studies major, continuing with biology. And what I also remember was that they also taught me to remember that everything you do has to be done like intentionally and with compassion. So while I was here, I was told, I was a part of Habitat for Humanity. When Community Green was here, I would work sometimes over there. I would sometimes work in some of the homeless shelters. And it always reminded me that there are always people who need your help. There is always a place where you can, wherever you are and whatever you're studying, that there's a place for you. There's a place where you can insert yourself and make sure that you're making a difference. And I took those lessons to all the places that I've been through. So all the places that I've been through, you will find that I'm looking at social justice. I'm looking at places where I can work with people who are underserved. I'm looking for places that need help. Now, once I was done with, I was completing my American Studies degree, I had done this wonderful article for the DePaul, and it was this great. I wrote this topic about a topic concerning about African American and American relations, and it was mostly about African stereotypes. And I remember writing about it, and at the time, the DePaul, the editor told me that was one of the most widely read articles that we'd ever written or we'd ever sold, and they had to do like another run of it. And I just remember thinking to myself, I love the idea of people listening to you or reading about something and then being open to asking you questions, even when they don't feel comfortable. So when you write about something and it's an uncomfortable subject, you give people permission to then ask you questions, and you give people permission to care about it. And so I loved having that sort of capacity, and I really wanted to see where that would take me. So at the end of my career here at DePaul, I decided that I was going to go into journalism. And so I got into the journalism school at Columbia and decided, well, I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to learn how to write. I'm going to continue to learn how to be a reporter, and I'm going to learn to tell stories. And so this is me and my dad at the Rosemont Horizon outside of graduation day. And this was me at the journalism school, literally going crazy. Like, that's what I was doing, because it's a master's program. And as with any master's program, it makes you feel like you are like going nuts. And so this is just a picture that just illustrated how I felt, that I was I felt like I was falling short of everything. It's one of those programs that doesn't really tell you that you're doing well in anything ever at any time, until the end, when they tell you that, I was awarded both a thesis in print journalism, but I also had a focus in broadcast as well. And so I rather had a really good time there. And this was me after the end of that wonderful one-year experience. And then I lived there. I was a journalist. I worked in New York City. My first job was coming out of journalism. I worked for a place called the Black Star News. And it was called the City Sun. It was a Brooklyn-based newspaper, and it was African-American based. And it was wonderful. I was a science reporter, but within 6 months it closed. I mean, just like we went to the door and the door was closed. And I thought, is it me? I mean, this place has been open for like 30 years, and I get there, it closed. So I, along with several other people from that particular place, from that particular newspaper, thought that we would come together, and we did the Black Star News. And it was a hard pull, and we did it for several years, but it was good work, and it was work that I found rewarding because it always ended up with me writing about healthcare. So I was a freelance writer, so I was working at InStyle magazine. I was working at Vibe. I was working at Vibe magazine when hip hop was really good. Just saying, no shade. Just saying. I was working at the Village Voice. I was doing editing. I was doing fact checking. I was doing everything that I could do as a writer, as a reporter, and as a copy editor to make my life to get the fullest experience that I could. But what ended up happening was I was finding myself always navigating my way back into medicine. Everything that I did always brought me back to science. I was always at the hospital finding out like what was going on with the labor union there, what was going on with the medical care in Brooklyn, what was going on with the hospitals. So I knew that there was a reason that kept on happening, that it was a theme that kept on like kind of circling back in my life. So after 5 years of working as a journalist, I decided then, you know what, I am going to go back. I'm going to go into medical school. Now, one thing I didn't tell you is that when I told my parents, my very immigrant parents, that I was going to not go into what do immigrant parents, what do they want? Like, what are the degrees?
Doctors.
Yeah.
Nurses.
Yeah, nurses. Yeah. Professors. Like, they're like, when you tell them that you're going to be a writer, what do they say? Really? Like, what does that even mean? Like, it was just, they were not. I mean, they were supportive, but I could tell that they were like, no, they were disappointed, But they were proud of me, and they were there on that day to support me. But when I did tell them that I was going back to medical school, they were like, yeah, we knew you always would. So because of some of the wonderful advice that I had received while here, I was able to apply to medical school because I had taken all of those prerequisites that I had never given up, that those advisors told me to never give up on and to continue on and to do well in. They worked in my favor because when it was time for medical school, I got in and I went to Rush Medical School right down the street, and I was prepared. I was prepared by all that I had learned here through the sciences, through the PChem and the OChem and the 6-hour labs and the labs that happen on Friday. And if you're really bitter about that, it's okay, because I was for a long time. I would sit there and I would look over my beaker and I would see everybody out SAC, and they would be, they would have they'd be sunbathing and playing hacky sack. And here I am on my 6th hour in organic chemistry, wondering how long is this going to be happening for me and what am I doing? But when I got into medical school, it all sort of came together. I thought, you know what? All of those professors were looking out for me. And that is not something that you would find everywhere. That's something that you found here. And another story that I just quick story that I wanted to tell you. And I don't talk about this very much because it was very difficult for me. But my junior year here, my father had lost his job. And I could not afford to come back here. I mean, even with the aid that I was getting, it just wasn't possible. So I essentially went to all of my professors and told them that maybe I would come back, but maybe not. And I said goodbye to them. And I remember Lily Edwards saying, well, you can't leave right now. I mean, you're in the middle of, I was taking physics and I was doing all these wonderful things. And I was the assistant in the history department, and I'd gotten a research fellowship to work at Cornell and for a summer. And they thought, you can't leave now. And I said, but I can't come back here. There's nothing I can do. And I don't know what she and Janie Isaacson, who was the head of the bridge program at the time, I don't know what they did. But all I know is that in January, when I knew that I was not coming back, I got a call from someone in the financial department, and they told me that for the next 2 years, everything that I did was going to be paid for. And I still don't know how that happened. And that everything that I had, like all of the debt that I had accumulated was forgiven. So I don't know. I still don't know what happened. I don't know what they said. I don't know how to explain it. But I know that if I get a little emotional, it's because that was really something that I did not expect. And it's one of those reasons they give me my why. You know, sometimes you have to get up and you wonder, like, why am I doing this? Well, that would be one of my whys, is that I was given a chance. I was given several chances. I was born in the Congo, and then I came to the United States, and then I had to leave college, and I thought I was never going to be able to come back. And so when things got really tough, how much tougher can it be? I've been through a lot, and those professors, those teachers, all of those people did something that they didn't have to do. They could have just let me go, but they didn't. So with that, I was able to continue on at Rush Medical School. And with Rush Medical School, I was ready. Because of the time that I had taken off, when I came back 5 years later, I was prepared. I was motivated. I was ready to be a medical student. And because I had some real world experience, I felt that I was able to bring some of that to my clinical experience, and that that allowed me to then excel. And so I excelled at Rush. And all of those things, all of those fundamental qualities, like working hard, like caring for others, all of those things are things that I honed in here. That came from this place. And I just want everybody to try to remember that. So I go to Rush Medical School. I decide that it's going to be emergency medicine for me. Because why? I remember that I told you that for me, the prison the prison that I saw medicine through was through that 10-year-old space where I saw a bunch of people being taken care of by that one doctor. So I knew that emergency medicine was what I wanted to do. I don't want to have to ask you what kind of insurance you have. I don't want to have to know, like, where I just want to take care of you. Those are the things that I just want to know what is the best way to be taken care of and to take care of you. And so when it was time to decide on a major, decide on a residency and what I was going to do, it was going to be emergency medicine. And I got into NYU, New York University, Bellevue Hospital. At the time, it was considered, and it is considered, one of the top institutions for emergency medicine. It's a 4-year institution. And it's a 4-year institution, meaning that you can either go into academics, or you can either go into community, or you can go into rural medicine, or you can do anything because it's considered a research institution. I decided that I was going to go into rural medicine. So why rural medicine? I mean, I'm a big city girl. Like I've lived in Boston, Chicago twice, Chicago 3 times, New York twice. I'd never been south. The furthest south I've been to was Meeting Falls Church, Virginia, and I didn't like it. So here I am. It's time to make a decision. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? So I decide that, you know, there's a saying like, why do bank robbers why do they rob banks? Well, they rob banks, that's where the money is. Well, for me, physicians, like, why do you become a physician? Well, you go to where the patients are. And to me, while I love New York City, I loved it. It was a great experience and I learned a lot. I didn't think that New York City needed any more physicians. But I knew that there are places that did. And when I went down to Southwest Georgia, I knew that it was a place that somehow drew me to it. I was drawn to it. And I don't know if it's because the clay is kind of red and it's kind of very tropical. So it reminds me of Africa in some ways. I don't know if it was also because the people that brought me there all were looking for the same thing. I don't know if it was because the director of the department was African-American and I had never seen an African-American director of any department, but it brought me there. And I've been there, it was supposed to be a 2-year contract. It was in 2006 and I've been there now for 20 years. So what is rural medicine? Well, it's the practice of healthcare in geographically isolated areas focusing on comprehensive primary care with limited resources, and over 46 million people live in rural areas. So that's not a small number. And this is the place where I work. It's Phoebe Worth Medical Center. And I don't know if you can see it in this particular picture, but if you go, you can see that right next to the hospital is actually just a field. That is actually a farm. So a lot of times people will come there and they'll wonder if the actual hospital is like the farmhouse. And we're like, no, this is a hospital, but it actually looks like a farm. And it's a 6-bed emergency department. And it's what we call a critical access hospital. Does anybody know what a critical access hospital is? So critical access means that it's a hospital that if it did not exist, the people in that area would have to work or would have to go at least and find a place 50 to 60 miles away from where they are to actually get care. And that is considered a desert. And there are plenty of places that are considered deserts. But a critical access hospital is really there to stabilize and to make sure that people are okay. And then you transfer them to other places where they can be better taken care of. In Georgia, there are 159 counties. 60 of those counties do not have hospitals. 10 of them don't have doctors at all. So there are times when I'm working, and this particular county is Worth County. There are times when I am the only doctor in the hospital, not only in the hospital, but there are times I'm the only doctor in the county. So that leaves me with, a lot of questions sometimes. You've got limited resources. You've got a lot of people that need to be taken care of. But you also have public policy that sometimes just doesn't seem to match the things that you need. So, for example, and I'm not going to get too much into politics, but what I want you to kind of understand is that I just mentioned that 46 million people live in rural areas, and rural meaning that 75 miles south of here is rural. It doesn't have to be in the south. There are places 20 miles outside of Eugene, Oregon that are rural. There are places outside of California, outside of LA, that are considered rural. But when you think of public policy, and when you think of public health, the effects of those are seen immediately in places where I work. So, for example, all of the tax benefits that were cut for all of the patients that were getting subsidized for the ACA or for what they call Obamacare, all those subsidies went away in December. And, you know, politicians were saying, oh, it's going to be fine. We'll supplement with some money here, and it'll take a while for that to filter down, for that to be a problem. That happened in December. I can tell you, but that by January, every other patient I was seeing was talking about being there in the emergency room, people who I had not seen previous to that, because they had lost either their ability to get their infusion for their Crohn's disease, for their chemotherapy. All of these policies are affecting rural hospitals because there's no cushion. Every other subsidy, every other safety net has disappeared. So while it may take a while for people here in Chicago, or maybe in New York, or maybe in Boston, or maybe in LA to really truly get the impact of that, I saw the impact of that immediately. And so I just want you to keep that in mind when you're thinking about the things that you want to do, the research that you want to do, the work that you want to do, the public policy that you want to be a part of, that what you do really does matter. So 2020 changed everything, changed a lot of things, right? I mean, it was a pandemic. So what did it do? In the demographic group ages 22 to 25 to 44, 63% of all rural counties saw a population increase. So that means that this is a very busy slide, and this is like the busiest slide you're going to get, I promise you. But basically what I want you to look at is at the very end there. That is the population change in the thousands of people moving from urban places to rural places. So really, and that was from 2021 to 2024. The other big increase was in the middle there, or sort of in the middle there, and that was in 2017 to 2020. So there's been a net increase in the population of rural counties, of rural places. So that's why rural medicine really matters. And we need to take that into account when we're doing and figuring out how we're going to use our healthcare dollars, and how we're going to assemble people, and where we're going to work. Like, where are you going to work? Where are you going to find your place? And how are we going to provide care for all these people who need so much care that sometimes don't have a physician? This is not the greatest slide, and I apologize that it doesn't look that great, but just for example, I'll just read it for you. Nearly 9 out of 10 rural and small town African Americans reside in the southern region of the United States. Rural African Americans comprise an even larger portion of the population in the Southern Belt. Those are the communities of Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, as well as Lower Mississippi and Louisiana. So when you talk about like, where are people moving to? This is where people are moving to. And so we have to care about what happens in these states, even if these are states that sometimes we, politics aside, do we agree with everything? No, but the fact is there are people who everybody needs care. And I'm just going to be very frank that I believe that medicine is a right and not a privilege. I believe that healthcare should be universal. And those are arguments that we're still kind of having, but I know that in some ways I've already lost. So I have to work within a system that is telling me that I have to work within that system, but it goes against kind of what I really believe in, but I have to work within those parameters. And so I do so by working in places that are severely underserved. So I want to get to some of my mission work because that is a very big part of what I do. But before I do that, I actually want to talk to you a little bit about like one of the sentinel moments for me in terms of my why, like, why am I doing this? What is going on here? Like, there's a lot of times in which, you're working really hard. I know that you're working hard. You're staying up all night. You're, every time your friends call you, they're wondering, like, what are you doing? Well, I'm studying. Why are you still studying? Because I'm in school. You're still in school? Yeah, I'm still in school. So, you're taking whatever, whichever path you take, whether that's the research, whether that's nursing, whether that's medical, whether that's, teaching, whichever way you're going to be in school. And I want you to understand that there is a path that works, and that the people that care about you will still be there. I know that there are people that were part of my DePaul community that check on me still, that still want to know what I'm doing, how I'm doing, that are making sure that I'm still around and alive and taking care of myself. And were there during medical school, when I could only afford saltine crackers and would take me out to dinner. I mean, so you have to remember what your why is. Why am I doing this? Even when things get really hard. So one of the things that I did back in 2022 was I had to figure out why I was doing what I was doing, because it was very difficult for me working in a resource poor area and dealing with a pandemic. Now, everybody had to deal with a pandemic. It was not something that anybody escaped. But for those of us who were in places that did not have resources, there was a particular strain. And I felt that I had to write about it in order to process that and to grieve that, but then to also continue on. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time reading to you a piece that I wrote for my own, for the New York University Alumni Association. And it basically talks about how I dealt with this situation. And it's called "What If Your Town Does Not Matter?" So during the first weeks of the surge of COVID-19 in the emergency department, I coded a 60-something-year-old African-American man who had COVID-19. It was in the middle of the night. He was in ICU hold. Now you can either follow along with me, you can just listen to me, it doesn't matter. And at some point you may want to there are a couple of themes that go along with this particular article, so you may want to go over it later. And I'm certainly willing to talk about it at that point as well. But I was the only doctor in the hospital. By the time I got there, he was in what we call asystole. So he did not have a pulse. And we started CPR. We resuscitated him for a brief time. And then we lost his pulse again. And we were not at that point able to get him back. We lost him and he died. And he died alone. So I asked my nurse, and he was a person who was supposed to have been moved to the ICU, but because we were so full at that point and there was no place to send anybody because all of the rooms where everybody was full, the country was full, I had to be the person to then try to find the next of kin to talk to the family about what happened to this patient. And the nurse told me that there was no next of kin. I found out that he was the last of the family of 3 to die. His wife died a couple of days before him. The patient's sister-in-law died 2 weeks before her, and they all died alone. At the time, I was working in Southwest Georgia. At that time, I was at a 200-bed hospital, so it had some more resources, but not too much more. And as of 2019, the total population of the county where the hospital was located was 22,000 people. It's 3.5 hours from Atlanta and Savannah and Birmingham, Alabama, and Tallahassee, Florida. It's breathtakingly beautiful. It's surrounded by pine trees and farmland and hunting plantations. It's in the heart of what we know as the Black Belt, the place where enslaved people were forced to pick cotton at the end of the Civil War. Despite our violent history, our divisive politics, and our region's geographic isolation, as a Black woman who has lived in New York City, Chicago, Boston, Southwest Georgia, to me was surprisingly progressive. I lived in an integrated neighborhood. Half of the emergency physicians where I've worked have been either Black or Latino, including the director. Black people are relatively prosperous here, dare I say happy. People own property. As I was writing this essay, COVID-19 had claimed more than 200,000 people. So essentially, it's as if the rural county that I was working in had died 10 times. The thought of that overwhelmed me. And it means that it's not entirely impossible for an entire rural population to die without anyone noticing, and to die alone, as that 60-year-old had died. So when COVID first hit in January 2020, I kind of soothed myself into thinking, well, geographically, we were so isolated. I mean, how are we it was gonna take months to get to us. I mean, it was gonna take maybe a whole year. That's what I thought. That would, give us, that would offer us some kind of protection because we were so far away. And that did not happen. The virus in this with such brutality in Southwest Georgia that we actually made national news. So in April, the coroner of Dougherty County, Michael Fowler, made the cover of Time magazine, and the photo showed him dressed in full personal protective gear, gowned, double gloved, face obscured by goggles, and an N95 mask. And in the story, Mr. Fowler said that the virus started spreading at a couple of funerals, and those individuals who attended those funerals went back to their neighborhoods and homes, churches, and more people, and everybody was infected, and it hit like a bomb. And a bomb it was. It overwhelmed all of our hospitals, all of the urgent cares. And the doctors and nurses, along with most of the techs that were dealing with this deluge, basically had to deal with this on a daily basis. But we did so kind of in silence. I mean, when I watched the news, I saw that there was a lot going on in Seattle, there was a lot going on in New York, and there was a lot going on in Chicago, but I just didn't see that. I didn't see that anything was going on in Albany, but I knew that it was because I was living it, and it was every day, and it was relentless. Before COVID-19 detonated, I had been in contact with some of my friends who had lived in New York City, who were emergency physicians, and they told me what to look for, what symptoms to do, how to increase your emergency department capacity by bringing in new people, bringing in more nurses, and bringing in more techs. And they're talking to me as if I have the capacity. I don't have that capacity. They have that capacity to bring in new people. So we did our best. I took everything they said seriously and did my best to fortify myself and my staff and all of the people. And when the virus did arrive, despite our best individual efforts, we were unprepared, simply because a rural hospital cannot adequately prepare for a global pandemic without a strong and active public health infrastructure. My first COVID-19 patient happened in the middle of March. I was working in the night shift by myself with a 50-something-year-old woman. She had worked as a nurse at the nearby Marine base, and she arrived in my emergency department. She'd had a fever that lasted for a couple of days, but she was a bit sleep deprived and she was dehydrated. And she remembered she'd only urinated twice in a 24-hour period, but she had no cough. She had a little bit of fatigue and some body aches, but her oxygen level was 100%, which means that if she's, if you've got an oxygen level of 100%, that means you're stable. That means you're okay. So I thought to myself, and she felt well enough to go to work. She'd gone to work that day. She'd gone to work the couple days before, not feeling any distress at all. She was sitting very comfortably in a recliner. I went through a thorough history. Had she recently traveled to Asia, Seattle, New York, Europe? No. Had anyone in her family been sick? No. She lived alone. Had there been any visitors to her house? No. All she did was work and go home. Had she been in contact with anyone with the novel COVID-19? She said she didn't think so. But then she remembered that 3 days before, she had taken care of a veteran with COPD. He came into the office coughing persistently with a dry hacking cough, with a fever, and he looked terrible, worse than his normal. So this was one of her patients that she knew, but he looked a little bit different. But I asked her, had she either worn a mask she didn't remember. She couldn't remember if because he was coughing so much, he kept taking it off, and she couldn't remember because it was just such a vague, it was such a vague time for her. So we thought to ourselves, you know, how badly could it be? All of her labs were okay. Everything was wonderful. I took a COVID test, but that was a time when the COVID test would take, it felt like years, but it would take days to come back. She went home. I got a call 2 days later saying that she tested positive. I called her. She said she was doing fine. I had the day off the next day. I came back to a respiratory therapist who then told me that woman who told me she had been fine the day before was actually on the ventilator in the ICU. And I was just, I was doubled over. That almost destroyed me. And the stories just kept on going that way. They just kept on going that way. And I just thought to myself, how long can this like continue to go on? You know, it went on for years, but we continued to, as a community, we worked, and I got the support of my husband. I got the support of my children. And, you know, the thing is, when you get married, you know, when you marry like an ER doctor, he knew he was getting what he was in for. You're getting in for a person who's never home, who works nights and weekends. But I don't think he meant to get involved with somebody who could potentially give him like a fatal disease. So those are the things that were going through my mind while I'm trying to figure out like how I'm going to take care of people. But I knew that with all that I had been given, to whom much is given, much is expected. So that leads me to my mission work. This is some of the work that I've been doing. Because of all the things that I've been blessed with, I've been to Kenya several times, and this was one of the times I went to Kenya, and some of my patients are there, and that was the ambulance that didn't actually work. It was just, it was pretty, but it didn't work. And this is me getting on the phone with a patient with trying to get a physician to help me because I had seen a patient who was in obstructed labor for 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And I knew that she needed to be taken care of as soon as possible. And at the time, we didn't have an ultrasound, but there was there's an African tool that you can basically listen to the heartbeat through like a hole, it's almost like a horn. And I was hearing the heartbeat at one point, and then at some point it just stopped. So that's somebody who caught me on the phone, basically trying to find somebody to help me. I didn't have any of the resources to do an emergency C-section. I was able to get somebody on the phone. He asked for cash. I gave him $500, and I went back the next day hoping that she would be alive, not thinking that there would be a baby because I thought the baby was gone. But there he was. She was good. Phyllis was good. And there was the baby. And you see that at the time I had asked, what is the baby's name? And they said that she speaks Swahili. My mom speaks Swahili. I don't. And the translator kept pointing at me. And I said, well, I'm not talking about me. I'm asking about her. Like, how is she? What is the baby's name? And they finally said, the baby's name is you, Mana. So they had named their baby Mana. And so I have a child named Mana that is now 14 years old. At the time I came back 2 years later, he's doing really well. And this is him now. And this is his family. And because of the support that I've been able to afford to give him, they've been able to buy this land that they actually have. They actually afford this. They pay for it. And because they changed the laws in Kenya, women can actually own it. So she owns that land. And they were able to get a milking cow, and they send their kids to school. And so when you think about your why, that's another reason for a why. That the things that you do really do matter. You save lives. You influence lives. You take care of people. I went to Haiti. I was one of the first doctors that went on January 18th. That was when this article was written. That the actual earthquake happened on January 10th. January 10th, I get there and it's a madhouse. I mean, it looked like a death trap. I mean, that's the only way that I can put it. But I was going to go because that was where I was needed. I had a week off. I planned on going to the Cayman Islands, but that wasn't going to happen. I was going to go to Haiti. And I'm not showing you, this is like the camp. And that was the camp, and that was sort of the destitute space that they were in. This was the camp in which we were taking care of people. And this is a mother who's smiling with this beautiful baby. But what you don't see is that that baby has an amputated leg. And what I do remember is that that child was always happy and that mother was always happy. So when I get really upset and when I think about not having enough resources and not being able to see all the patients that come in, I think about that child because that child always smiled. That mother always smiled. So surely I can find a way to take care of patients that still smile. And one last thing, I'll just skip over that real quick, but Kismekia Johnson, Kismekia Corbett, very clear. I just want to mention her because she's a scientist, she's a virologist, she's a pioneer, and she's a shiro. She worked on the coronaviruses and which became the basis for the mRNA vaccine, which was super controversial, but I'm just telling you right now that those of you who are involved in research and involved in public health, that there are now maybe 5 or 6 actual studies and companies that are working right now using the technology that she came up with to come up with vaccines for some of the most virulent and worst cancers right now. So I'm predicting that within 5 to 6 years, we will have vaccines to prevent certain cancers and that we will have a treatment that will cure cancers based off of this particular work that she has done. So remember, always do the work. Always do the work. The work matters. And at some point, we will come together as a country and we will, those of us on Earth 1 will remember that science matters. that viruses matter, that virology matters, that epidemiology matters, that an infrastructure matters. And when that does happen, you guys will be able to step into that fold and you'll be able to come and work with people like me who are still out here and trying to do the work. And this is just a picture of my family who came to visit last year. And I have my kids sitting in the chairs that I sat in when I was an undergrad here. And that's my husband, who I've known for 36 years.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. That was a fantastic talk and a very inspiring movement. And I know that we're a little bit behind our schedule, and I understand if you have to go due to other commitment at your stay. I think it's important for us to give the audience, both in-person audience and audience, a chance to ask a few questions. So let's take a few minutes for questions, and the additional questions can be addressed during the reception outside outside.
And if anybody needs my information,
Yeah.
certainly you can get that, and it's on one of the slides. You're allowed to take a picture of it. You can certainly ask me questions.
We can take 1 or 2 questions
Yes,
now,
please.
and then we will move to
Yes.
the reception. Any questions?
Anybody want to?
I'm sure they have a lot of questions, so,
I know that for myself, I was surprised at the amount of debt that I went into. Like, I don't know if anybody wants to know, but that's become a big issue, particularly. So, yes.
Here.
How does your journalism background, affect how you interact with patients? It's both very interpersonal fields.
So that's a really great question. So the one thing that I think is really good about both fields and what helps me to become a very good physician is I listen. So communication is huge. And I can tell whether there's going to be a good communication or bad communication within 5 seconds of walking into a room. And they're just non-clinical cues, the things that I learned that my mom did when she was seeing her patients. That's touching someone's shoulder, looking them in the eye, smiling, nodding, and being an active listener. All those things are things that I learned from my mother and that I also learned from my journalism degree.
I think we can ask more questions during the reception time. And thank you so much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So now representing the committee, I have this surprise for you
Thank you.
as a token of appreciation. And we're so happy to have you here. And thank you for this wonderful work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was wonderful. And I feel very honored to be here. And like I said, the basis for all that I've learned has come from this institution. And the Vincentian in me comes out in everything that I do. And
well, thank you. And we will ask more questions during the reception. And next, we will move on to the closing remarks. And we have Dr. Susan McDonald. She's a professor of psychology and associate dean for research, and she's going to give us a closing remark.
I'm going to make it very brief. I know we're over time, but I really wanted to thank our speaker, Dr. Kasongo-Robinson. I learned a lot. I really valued and appreciated your telling us a little bit about your individual, family, and educational history. I feel like that added a lot of context, where you grew up, your time at DePaul, and like sort of the importance of advising, faculty mentoring, your academic preparation, the financial support, the importance and need in rural areas, of course, and you're a wonderful storyteller. So I feel like it made such an impact, very inspirational. So I hope everyone enjoyed it, and thank you so much.
thank you.